Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Statutory Planning Committee meeting of the 16th of July 2025. Welcome to those in person and online today. The meeting is being live streamed and will be available for viewing via the Commission's website as well as YouTube. Committee members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting, as well as take notes to assist them with their deliberations. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to elders past and present. Apologies and leave of absence. Apologies today from Commissioner Lakey. And attending in person today, we have myself, we have Deputy Chair Commissioner Herron, Commissioner Brooks, Member Harmon and Member Knight. And online, we welcome Commissioner Adair, Member Franklin and Member Moore. Disclosures of interest. I've received one today in relation to item 3.3, which is the City of Bayswater's draft local planning policy for Bedford North. Member Franklin has declared an indirect pecuniary interest in that as a principal planner for Franklin Planning, she provides ongoing sub-consultancy services to James Charlie, who are contracted to the City of Bayswater to prepare the informing Bedford North Urban Design Study. Member Franklin has advised that she has no involvement in this project or with the city, but Member Franklin, given this is an indirect pecuniary interest, I assume you'll be stepping out on this item? Yes, thank you very much. Members, are there any other declarations of interest? No, thank you very much. Disclosures of representation, any to make today, members? Look, there is one from me. I was contacted by the applicant, Frank Arangio of CDP, in relation to item 3.0. Is the Greater Bunbury Region Scheme lifting of urban deferment on Forest Highway and Raymond Road in Rowlands. Mr. Arangio advised that he would be present at today's meeting but hadn't sought a deputation. I have responded to Mr. Arangio to say that there may be questions from members, and given that he hasn't made a deputation under the meeting procedures, section 14.1.3, the chairperson can invite a member of the public forward to speak to the board or committee. So if there are questions from members, please let me know and we can invite Mr. Arangio forward to answer any questions on the item. Declaration of due consideration. Can all members please indicate that they have considered ahead of today's meeting? Thank you very much, everybody. And confirmation of previous minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes today. So first of all, I'll just ask, are there any questions in relation to the minutes before you? Either set? No? Okay, happy to move forward with confirming the minutes then. First of all, we have, we'll deal with them on block then, if there are no questions. So for both Wednesday the 18th of June and Wednesday the 2nd of June, could I please have a mover? Moved by Commissioner Herron and seconded by Member Harmon. Is there any dissent? Thank you. The minutes are both carried. Deputations and presentations. Today we do not have any verbal deputations, but we have received a written deputation on item 3.3 from the City of Bayswater, Timothy Dawson, and that's included in today's agenda. Members, at this point, given that I've flagged with you that we can invite a member of the public forward to answer questions, would anyone like to ask the applicant any questions in relation to items? Thank you, Commissioner Herron. Frank, would you like to come forward, please? Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
Frank, given that it's not a deputation, we'll just go straight to questions. So Commissioner Herron, over to you.
Thank you. Frank, I suppose the key one from my mind is around service delivery, and I understand that there has been liaison, particularly with the Water Corp, over a period of time. Wanting to understand the current extent of commitment and the, I suppose, the risk appetite that the components are prepared to take in terms of that pre-funding arrangements and other components to ensure sort of the delivery of services.
Yeah. Simple answer to the question is that the the applicant will abide by the usual terms of engagement to extend service to their site. All of these services will be paid by the applicant. There will be some pre-funding items which they'll pay for and get reimbursed down the track as per the Water Corp requirements and procedures. They are committed to obviously doing that fairly quickly because there's basically no land supply in that region, and this proposal has been in train for 7 years, and so there's a lot of commitment. There's pent up demand, so I think the matrices and the finances will work. All we don't have is a lot of the future stuff from the Water Corp. It's obviously early days. We have been liaising with the Water Corp. I have it on good authority from the project engineer for over 4 years. Some things have been finalised, other things are still in train. But certainly, to answer your question, there's absolutely every intent for the developer to fund everything that's required to get the first stages up and running, and some of the longer term stuff is still in train.
If I may follow up in terms of, because the other component being obviously around the Western Power components as well.
Yep.
Similarly, there's been liaison there. Again, is there at least a level of in principle discussions around, because I think that there is the capacity for the first stage.
I think first 2 stages, I think definitely 50 lots, I think more than that. And there's the potential for, there's a requirement potentially for an upgrade of some length, future HV upgrade, which the developer will fund. But again, the extent of funding and the extent of any reimbursement is yet to be decided. There's also an opportunity, and this is where we should be going as a society anyway, for some microgridding as well. We've been liaising with the gentleman who put together the Witchcliff microgrid, been on part of our team for 4 years as well. And there's also an opportunity for us to work with Harvey Water. I don't know if you know about Harvey Water. Helen, you do. It's basically an opportunity for us slightly saline water from the Wellington Dam to be actually provided to the site and act as a third pipe for non-potable supply for domestic and public open space. So that's really exciting. We've been working with the Harvey Water Authority for 4 years as well. So there's been a lot of stuff going on in the background. It's now at the pointy end, but I have absolute confidence that the opponent who was responsible for the delivery of Treendale Estate across the road, some 1,200 lots, has a capacity, financial and management wise, to deliver.
And if I may further, the other one being in terms of the, and I know that we're not determining the structure plan today, but the R25 through to R80 is obviously of a fairly broad nature. Having now seen the schedule attached, which I have better understanding, are there any sites outside of the actual centre which are envisaged to, in fact, achieve the R80 component, or that you would envisage could potentially achieve the R80?
To answer that question, reality is the first stage is probably, obviously, there won't be the demand or the ability financially for that to occur, but I think there will be that opportunity, but probably won't be able to be determined for a number of years. But the short answer is yes. Exactly how much and where is to determine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Brooks.
Just in relation to the water management strategy, there's a few comments from everywhere and also the Water Corporation that indicate a significant drainage component to that hasn't yet been fully resolved. But I know that there's been an updated local water management strategy potentially since those comments. Are you confident that those drainage issues are able to be resolved with minor amendments, or?
Based on my knowledge, absolutely yes. And there's currently communication between the local authority and our hydrologist in that regard. So they're ting-tacking as we speak, but there's been absolutely no suggestion at any stage that the site wouldn't be able to function and be delivered from a hydrological perspective.
Members, any further questions? Thank you for that question, Commissioner Brooks. That was something I was going to ask. Just like just in relation to the report from Water Corp, it raises the local water management strategy. You've answered the question. And also it talks about the 2 wastewater pump stations, 5-year capital works for Water Corp, and then 1 to be funded by the proponent.
Correct.
So that's your understanding?
Yes.
With that. In terms of the local water management strategy, how far away do you think that is finalised? And when do you see your structure plan coming forward?
I'm hoping that it's within a week or two. As the planners, we're sort of going outside the circle a bit, and I know that there's been a liaison between the council and the merge, but I'm hoping from what I hear it will be about within the next week or two. And yeah, and we've got one of the best geologists in the business, and Dave Coleman's on it as well, as you know. One of the guys have been around for a long, long time, and like most hydrologists these days, is quite adept and understanding of the challenging conditions that we now face with residential estates, because all the good land's gone. We're now dealing with the more challenging sites. So that area of expertise and conservatism in terms of drainage requirements is almost at a new level, and certainly is the main issue that most of my projects face.
Okay, so at this stage, you're at the finalisation point where any fatal flaws or major issues would have been raised at this point?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Any further questions for Frank? Yep, thank you very much. Okay, members, will then move on to our non-confident items for today. And item is 3.1, the retrospective development application for tourist accommodation in Inverell Road in Waroona. And Cale Luxton and Anne Harrop are joining us today on this item. Thank you, Cale and Anne. Is there anything that you wish to add to the report, or are you happy to go straight to questions?
Yeah, happy to go straight to questions.
Right, members, any questions on this report?
Chair, if I may.
Let's go ahead.
This one, I'm just wanting to confirm. So my reading of it, and again, the report will articulate the fact that there is a risk component attached to this, and this isn't acceptable because, of course, removing the forest in which the whole purpose of people would attend. The management plan in terms of the evacuation management, etc., has been updated. Is that correct? And so that is now going to be the mechanism in terms of managing risk.
Chair, that's correct. Yeah, there was always a bushfire evacuation plan. The fire management plan is a new thing that's been submitted with the application, and both the evacuation plan and the bushfire management plan will be enforced through DFC's lease agreement.
Just for absolute clarity on that, can you just outline on the days on which evacuation would occur when it's catastrophic conditions versus extreme conditions?
Yeah, through the chair, it's both for extreme and catastrophic fire conditions that the park would be closed.
Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, so completely closed, not just on weekdays or weekends, but if it's extreme catastrophic, there's an evacuation, the preventative safety measure. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Members, any other questions? Okay, happy to move to consider the item. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Moved by Commissioner Heron, seconded by Member Knight. Commissioner Heron, do you wish to discuss the item?
Oh, I'm happy to just again reinforce the fact that obviously this is a catch-up item because of the changes with the region scheme, etc. But I'm satisfied that the management measures in place will address the issue sufficiently.
Thank you. Member Knight, any comments?
Thinking nothing more really other than that the management now addresses the risks. So.
Members, any further comments? Probably just to add that I think that because this is managed by DBCA, who is extremely experienced in fire management and manages the surrounding forest area as well as the tourist accommodation, I think that in very good hands in terms of expertise in managing bushfire risk. Any further comments? Any dissent to the item? Thank you. The item is carried. Takes us to item 3.2, Greater Bunbury Region Scheme, lifting of urban deferment at Forest Highway and Raymond Road in Rowlands. And David Brash and Luke Misford are joining us. Thank you very much, David and Luke. Now, David and Luke, on this item, there were some questions that were provided and responses received from members yesterday. Is there anything that you've to add or elaborate on before we go into questions?
Yes, if I could, through the chair. So critically, the three issues related to water, which I think has largely been addressed through the response to the committee through those questions. The second issue related to the content of the structure plan and some of the nuance around weddings, which I think was touched on through Commissioner Merritt's question. And then finally was some discussion around forward planning, some of the knowledge that the Commission may require to understand infrastructure works to service to develop Greendale East. So at this point in time, we have been engaging with those agencies. There has been some delay to the provision of information to the department to inform the Commission. So, we'd probably leave it at that. We still see the lifting of the urban deferment as a positive. We see downside risks as being low in the absence of that information.
Thank you, David. Look, I think one of the things that I'm conscious of and that I'd like to respond to is that at the Commission we have been receiving more information about costings on infrastructure. I think there's been a discussion around whether that's the regional, regional schemes are in step with that approach. So I guess the key question for the committee is around risk of lifting of urban deferment at this point and whether we're satisfied that the infrastructure requirements can be met, that they're reasonably understood. The report talks to the fact that it does require 3 wastewater pumping stations, that 2 will be provided in the 5-year forward works by Water Corp. The applicant today has spoken about understanding that that 3rd will have to be proponent funded. Are you satisfied that that's sufficient to proceed today?
Yes, through the chair, we're confident that that information is probably the best information we have at this point in time. I think the moving forward through the broader, there's dozen lots projected here. So that is a long supply of land. So what we're asking the Commission to do this morning is at least to take that first step to the provision of land supply into the Bunbury market. But longer term, I think there will need to be further discussions, potentially other infrastructure upgrades that aren't easily developer funded charges.
Great. Just another one is that we've heard today from the applicant that the local water management strategy is very close to completion, that there hasn't been any major issues raised through that process, that it doesn't point to any significant issues that can't be overcome and that drainage should be able to be accommodated. Is that something that you're comfortable with to comment on?
So yeah, we can comment on that. So the local water management strategy informs the structure plan. The local structure plan has been required to be amended, and part of those amendments are a completed local water management strategy. The local water management strategy would be effectively signed off by water and production before the final structure plan occurs. So we're confident that those agencies will be comfortable prior to that being signed off.
Members, questions? Thank you. Through the chair, I suppose to that item around the density component, the R25 to R80, and there had been some discussion previously around consistency of approach in how structure plans are dealing with this. Appreciating the fact that the decision today is not about the structure plan, but obviously it does provide context. If you could clarify where the structure plan is in the process and how that might be addressed. Oh, sorry, do you want all the questions at once or?
That's probably
Okay.
sufficient through the chair. So thank you for the question. Yeah, so following the briefing, we have had discussions, particularly through Matt Selby's team, the regional teams, and they do have a slightly different approach. We understand it's not binary approach. There have been some consultants that have a preference for resolving some of the nuance with density across these structure plan areas in a particular way. And in the regions, we've probably been more open to considering those options. And one option is the option that you've seen before you on the structure plan, which provides a range of densities, but then provides some criteria around how those densities apply locationally as the structure plan. So we have had that discussion, and it's not too late to bring this structure plan into closer alignment with practice in the area. So happy to take them on to that.
Thank you. Through the chair, the other query in my mind is because obviously there has been an item of main roads, which I'm quite comfortable is able to be resolved. I've lost my note here. One moment, please. Yes, so and we've established that the servicing issues will be able to be addressed. As part of this process, however, is it appropriate that we provide a recommendation, or should there be some emphasis included in the resolution promoting Water Corp's future engagement in process, or are you comfortable that that will be able to be addressed through standard process?
Comfortable with that being addressed offline, if you like, and then possibly a report
Mhm.
to the committee. Probably run that in conjunction with the body of work that the men's team runs, and so that there is consistency. But it could equally be an addition to the recommendation if the committee is open to both.
Thank you.
Members, anything further? David, you can sense there's a lot of in the structure plan, which we're not dealing with today, but I think the question would be, when is that structure plan likely to come before the committee? Given that it's, there's interest in the way in which the coding is working, and also take your point around that in the regional context, you're saying that may be appropriate, but also in terms of the local water management strategy. So do you have a time frame when it might be presented to the committee?
We had originally intended to deal with that under delegation, Chair.
Okay.
So we can confront that either as a matter to the committee to determine. Might imagine that would be
Okay.
very close to the first round of modifications have been made. We've received the document back, so we didn't get to.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, members, anything further in terms of questions? Okay, then we'll move to the consideration of the item. So could I please have a seconder for the item? Moved by Commissioner Heron, seconded by Commissioner Brooks. Any discussion?
Thank you. Through the chair. Again, I think that we all acknowledge the need for additional land to be provided through here, accepting also that it is in a regional setting, and therefore there is an element of nuance associated with that. I did note, obviously, the proponents' comments around opportunities around alternative servicing arrangements, and hopefully that can be incorporated. I'm in no way seeking to delay the resolution of the structure plan, and have complete confidence that that will be able to be addressed. It's, I think, ultimately a good outcome, despite the fact that main roads will always have their challenges.
Much, Commissioner Brooks.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, for me, it's kind of three big issues. The servicing is probably the most significant one of those. But in terms of the drainage and the non-potable water supply, I'm satisfied that the local management strategy is the right vehicle to address those matters. I think where we're at with this one, ideally, we would have had a water management strategy at the previous stage, which would have started those discussions around what a non-potable source would look like for this area and how to resolve those drainage issues, those broader drainage issues. We are playing catch up a little bit on this one, but I do think the issues are resolvable. And there is a clear pathway to a non-potable water supply, which is a critical component for the urban area. In terms of the servicing, there's obviously a lot of issues solved, but we are seeing a big improvement with those servicing issues and constraints and costs. And so I think if we can start to work towards rolling that model out into the region, significant step for us. But in this instance, I think, yes, you know, this area is a promising area for a lot of new housing in an area that really needs it. And so I'm happy that we can address those risks.
Commissioner Brooks. Members, any further comments? Concur with everything that's been said. Thank you very much for those comments. Probably just to add that it is an urban expansion area. We've heard that this has been something that's been planned for 7 years, and that the structure plan and the local water management strategy are now imminent. We've heard from the DPLH that there is no significant, or there is no great risk in moving forward, that we're confident in the infrastructure provisioning, that we do have those 2 wastewater pump stations in the forward works for Water Corp. And we've had a good discussion today about the model that we're applying in the metro in terms of having more upfront infrastructure costings provided, and that we are in a bit of a catch up, as Commissioner Brooks had mentioned, with the regions, and like to move to that same model for the regions, noting that that does take time and is a bit of a shift in the way in which officers are operating, and we need to bring our strategic service agencies along with us in that process. So on the basis of all that's been discussed today, happy to support the recommendation. Any further comments? Any dissent? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, David and Luke, and thank you, Damien, for attending on this item as well. Now moving to item 3.3, which is the City of Bayswater draft local planning policy for Bedford North. Require amendments to the volume 1. Member Franklin, just noting your indirect pecuniary interest on this item, so we'll welcome you back to the meeting once this item has been concluded, and we welcome Dale Sanderson and Ella Compton to discuss the item. Dale and Ella, anything that you would like to add to the report before we go to questions?
Perhaps just briefly, thank you, Chair. So that's the character of the area that is or was the driver for the LPP was largely driven by the existing dwellings in the area, in our view, in combination with their landscape setting. But most of the original dwellings in the area have actually all been removed for infill development. So with that, the character that the LPP seeks to retain has really disappeared. And importantly, the LPP doesn't actually propose to retain any of the remaining existing dwellings. So that's really the driver, in combination with 3.1 of the R codes, that requires that modifications are warranted due to a specific need in the locality for refusal on all elements.
Thank you, Dale. Members, questions on the item?
Thank you through the Chair. Just wanting to clarify, have similar provisions been incorporated in other localities, and what would be the distinction between those localities and this locality?
Have similar provisions been, sorry, is the question, have similar provisions been approved?
That's correct.
Yeah. There were provisions, did you want to talk to, there was an LPP in City Beach that was with a different scenario.
So the Town of Cambridge residential built form policy was presented to SPC on the 15th of January this year. SPC agreed with the department's recommendation to only allow the 60% landscaping in lieu of 50% under the R codes to apply to the suburbs of Laureate and City Beach. This was on the basis that there were the suburbs were designed with garden suburb principles and therefore met the relevant R codes criteria, but the variation wasn't supported in relation to Wembley and West Leederville.
And importantly, in City Beach, the character is still intact.
Thank you. Through the chair, the other key component, I mean, obviously mindful of expectations through community engagement and things like that, which would have occurred through this. Has there been any discussion in terms of how this will be communicated or managed post-determination?
Up on the specifics of how to be managed, no, but obviously get this recommendation first. We're happy to have those discussions, absolutely.
Thank you. And sorry, finally, through the chair, just wanting to clarify, are there any other similar precincts which are currently determination or in consideration at this particular point in time that you think that we should be aware of, being very mindful of trying to ensure consistency of approach?
The chair, I'm not aware of any. Sort of thinking out loud, we don't get a lot of these south of the river in Metro Central South, and I haven't. There's none on my radar north.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? And we'll move to consideration. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Oh, I might go with Commissioner Brooks.
Please. I was
But I'm really appreciating it. Thank you very much, Commissioner Heron, and seconded by Commissioner Heron. Go ahead.
I'm satisfied with the report. I don't see that there is a particular driver for those specific criteria. And so I'm happy to go with the officer's recommendation.
Commissioner Heron, any comments?
Just to sort of say, I'm particularly mindful of consistency of approach and very comfortable about the point of distinction that was made, because again, I think that we do need to be mindful as to when we say no or yes, what those criteria were, and I think that that has been articulated. My only request would be that there be conversations with the city in terms of how this is managed from a communication perspective, and whether there are other elements of the urban design strategy that could still be progressed without that, without this particular component being included.
Any other comments, members? Look, I'll probably just comment that I was keen to really give the City of Bayswater the benefit of looking at this very closely, because I know that when you've gone to the trouble to do such a study, that you've gone out to community, etc. A lot of work does go into this. But I think that when you look at the way in which we've been very stringent in the way we've applied amendments to the R codes, and that we had such a high bar set back in January when we considered the Town of Cambridge's local planning policy, where we've only allowed those landscaping amendments in the garden suburbs where they really do have a defined character. I think that the case just has not been made, particularly when you consider that they're looking at 6 metre setbacks at the rear, 3 metre setbacks for third stories. Like, they're quite significant in terms of the impact that would have on the coding in this location. So I just didn't feel that the case was made. I think also when you look at the community feedback, 42 submissions with 38% supporting and 62% objecting, they haven't actually really been able to demonstrate that they've got that community will there to really strongly support this either. So I think overall the case hasn't been made, and I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation, but do want to acknowledge the work that goes into this sort of planning by local governments, and understand the intent behind it, but I just don't think that we can make a certain case for this. It just hasn't been made. So yeah, any further comments? Any dissent? That's carried. Thank you very much. Members, we don't have any confidential items, but we do still need to go to confidential. Thank you very much, Dale and Ella, to consider if there's any urgent or other business. So could I have a mover and seconder that we move to consider that behind closed doors? Thank you very much, Member Harmon, and seconded Member